Cold open. That was good.
Cool, awkward silence. Yep, that's about right. Let's go.
Yeah.
Cold open, achieve.
That was very cold. Welcome to the Professional Nerds Podcast, where silly shit is serious business. I'm Ryan. I'm a comics and anime, manga, superheroes professor. I do the academic side of things and humanities and all that good stuff. How about y'all?
I'm Gabe. I'm a deep dive kind of nerd. Do a lot of get into the world building of things. Do a lot of Warhammer and other such nonsense. Star Wars, I guess. And I love it.
Nice.
Born a nerd. Do mostly video games, also do comic books, anime, manga, blah, 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 blah. Just a lot of the usual stuff. Knowledge doesn't run as deep as these two, but I'm here for the everyman position.
And who are you, oh nameless everyman?
My name is Van.
There you go.
I was ready for you to just make something up and be like, I'm Geraldo.
Should have done that.
That would have been great.
That
That or, I am everyman, I have no name. Something nice and poetical.
I'm
or
that
just,
guy.
Or I am man. Man the man. The everyman man.
You are that guy. If you listen to our... literally, if you listen to our Mage 40K series that I narrate, Van plays that guy.
Yep.
And is very good at it.
Which is the least war crimey of our group, and is currently a dog, and mostly works for CC, and I love it.
Yeah. It's currently an official good boy.
Currently.
The least war crimey of our
Yes, currently.
No, he's not especially war crimey on the reg.
Well,
Compared to other.
Have you met Kyle and Porgy? And
yeah,
well, that's true.
By comparison, Mills, I think, is as a player the least war crimey of the lot of us.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, the list of the war crimes list and sanity list compares pretty well. It's Mills is at the bottom, then Welshie would be next.
yeah.
And they're both fairly sane people. They're weird, but they're actually, compared to the rest of us, they are nice and normal.
They are both on the only do war crimes occasionally side,
and feel bad about it usually.
And usually feel bad about it, yeah. And then you get into
Me
I
and
can cut things. Competence is
incompetence.
yeah.
Yeah, you and competence.
I think we go back and forth.
yeah.
I think competence might have outranked me now.
Yeah, although her war crimes are generally more on the personal scale of like turning somebody's lungs and circulatory system into a statue.
Cruel and unusual.
Yeah,
Like
it's
yeah.
It's more the war crimes is a tool in my kit, and I'm perfectly willing to use it. Your war crimes are less on. You don't tend to do much on the personal scale. It tends to be more
mass
game
chaos.
breaking. I'm just fucking around over here in the corner. Oops, did I accidentally a dark god?
Yes.
Yes, you did. It's so much worse than that.
Like, listeners, just so you know, all of us rolled to see if we noticed him doing this. None of us succeeded. The dice were on board with his horrible, horrible plan.
We got a pet mimic, and he fed it a dead elder god's brain, and then other things.
And
I have no regrets.
a new elder god. Anyway,
It's now eating entire multiverses.
Yeah.
They become it, even their afterlife.
We tried.
We didn't try hard enough.
No, we didn't.
Anyway.
It would take our fully realized mage characters to take on Kyle. Like actually fully in their prime.
10th dot.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I would say you are next up on the scale in a little more creative war crimes, very artistic war crimes.
Yes, I do get artistic with the war criming.
And towards the top is me and Critical.
Critical.
And he is mine are much zanier. I go for surrealist war crimes. I still destroy everything, but I'll try to snap your mind first. Critical scares me.
Yeah.
He's a wonderfully nice person, very polite and calm and sincere. And if he as you have said before, if he ever went said, I'm going to take over the world, my response is, okay, what do you want me to do? Because I'm working for you now.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't want to bet against you here. So I'm just gonna sign up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know for your and my positionings on the war crime scale, because the creativity, I feel like mine are often like weirdly crueler. Because yours are more zany, and mine are a little bit like I'm gonna hurt your feelings while I torture your body.
Although
you die.
I'm gonna stop us here as we were talking about how terrible we are as people. You can listen to that on like a D&D.
Yeah. Listen, I defy any D&D group that has not played together as the same group for many years to not be able to register their characters or them as players on a war crime scale. I'm just saying.
There is a video I posted to our Discord that's on YouTube. Is like when the FBI finds your D&D Discord log.
Why are there detailed plans of a building? Don't worry about it.
What? And
we didn't end up even using that one. What do you mean that one? Don't worry about it.
You planned, according to this, to use a child as a bomb. Look, we were going to create a fake child. Quote continues, we could even use a real one. We'll get an orphan to save on magical component costs. That way no one will miss them. But look, I was playing an evil character, okay? Because we've said shit worse than that.
It goes on to say, I'm not even saying this as my character. We could really do this, you guys.
Yeah, so I'm very glad that, at least one gamer has got to be in the FBI and go like, no, this is normal conversation. These don't belong on a list. I'll tell you when they're actually dangerous. These are just nerds who are blowing off steam.
But to segue to war crimes, we're going to talk about colonialism today.
Hooray! Nice segue.
That was really well. That was a good one.
It almost sounds like we planned that. We didn't, but that would have been really cool if we had.
It would have been cool if we had.
So I recently wrote an article, and I did this because I study pop culture, and my brain never turns off, and everything I do to relax also counts as research. So I was watching anime the other day, and then I went, wait a minute, I bet there's an essay in this. Maybe this kind of looks like oh, son of a bitch, it is. And then my brain couldn't stop, and I had to turn off the show and go write an essay about it, which I have since sent off to a journal for publication, which hopefully will be peer-reviewed and well-received, but it's, that'll take another year or so. But the premise is I happened to notice Isekai, which is a great genre. If you don't know,
it is a great
Isekai literally means other world. It's a genre where a person or a group of people are, from one means or another, transported to a world different from our own.
Very often it's Truck-kun.
It's what?
Truck-kun. Usually.
Oh, yeah. They get hit by a truck and then they reincarnate in another world. Sometimes they fall through a hole in reality. Sometimes a wizard from the other world summons someone in. And they show up in the new world, and they are ridiculously powerful and it's always because of shit that made them mundane in the regular world. So, I know basic algebra because I was in a high school algebra class, and suddenly your ability to do maths is how magic works, and you're a 10th level wizard. Or shit like that. Or even if, you reincarnate in the new world and you get a whole new set of powers, you start using knowledge from the old world to make the new world better.
Mm-hmm. Or a perspective.
Or a perspective or something like that. The Isekai genre has been really popular in the last 10 years or so. It really picked up with Sword Art Online in 2012 when that became an anime, at least in the West.
Yeah, really.
And in that case, it's not technically a different world because it's a game that they get trapped in, but it's the same principle. You are in a different world.
And your outside knowledge about that world gives you the advantage.
In a lot of cases, especially, the new world is based on MMORPG logic or like D&D logic and rules.
That's MMORPG.
Yes, MMORPG. Sorry.
I used MMORPG to mean MMORPG.
A massive multiplayer online role-playing game. So like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I've been playing too many games that I figured that. I didn't think that was a thing that people wouldn't know. It's an acronym.
Yeah, it is. Always good to have some everyman around, and it doesn't always have to be the same person.
Yep.
A lot of them are basically the core fantasy is being a nerdy gamer makes you a god tier hero adventurer in this new world. and so all your gamer skills suddenly translate to actual power. But that idea of going to a new world where suddenly all your regular skills and technology make you powerful, and using that to be a hero and get fame and glory and rewrite the world in your image, is colonialism. It's Isekai is based on colonialism. And this goes back not just to the standard Isekai genre, but even American examples like A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain, or the Warlord of Mars series, the Princess of Mars series, Warlord of Mars, John Carter. There's a bunch of books and they all go by kind of those titles by Edgar Rice Burroughs. It's the same thing. A guy, a regular, except that he's kind of immortal, a regular soldier gets...
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis, Narnia?
Oh, yeah.
It's, that one's a little less colonialist, but it's definitely there.
I mean, they are British.
They are British. Yeah, that's...
Pretty inherently colonialist. They become
British...
the kings and queens of the new place they go to.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So...
Yeah, with their own special Jesus.
Yeah.
Lion Jesus. So yeah, it's definitely the same thing. Warlord of Mars, he shows up on Mars and he's just a former Confederate soldier because he's racist. And suddenly he can leap miles in the air and is super strong because he comes from a planet with different gravity.
Question.
And he saves the magic princess and ends all their wars and savagery because with his superior human white brain. So yes, question.
So, what about, so Michael Crichton wrote Timeline, where they go back in time and they use their, modern knowledge. Would you consider that to be isekai?
I would say it's... I don't know, because I haven't read it, but I would say if it's not isekai, it's at least isekai adjacent. So it's in the same ballpark, and based on a short description, sounds like it's probably some of we're colonizing the past.
A little bit, yeah. And they definitely are using knowledge that they gained from the future to do stuff.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is this idea, not just that they're using knowledge to do stuff, or an example might be Evil Dead, or Army of Darkness in the Evil Dead. Ed, he has his car and it has a physics textbook or a chemistry textbook in it, and they use that to make hand grenades and a giant machine. But it's not really, the idea isn't that this is superior to your culture. It's more like we got an extra edge. And the attitude is there, but it's not the main feature. Whereas King Arthur's Court, the entire premise is, and Twain wrote it this way, of look at what an American would do if they went back in time. They'd start colonizing shit like we're colonizing the Philippines. It's all about he's so much better because he has all this know-how and knows how to use shit, and Merlin is a fraud, and it's, basically, yeah, his culture is superior, and that lends him dominance. So yeah.
You should read Timeline. I think it would be interesting to get your take on it from this, because a lot of what they are is they're archaeologists who are studying a specific battle site in France, and they basically get portaled through to that location during the time period they were studying.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the knowledge they're bringing is about, they know who the lord is in the local castle, and they know he's about to be under attack in 3 days, and they know that this is the means by which the castle gets taken, and they have all of this knowledge of the specific situation, and then they have to figure out okay, how do we not change things so we don't make paradoxes.
Yeah.
And they do that whole thing.
Yeah.
But it is a more specific knowledge to that.
Yeah. And that in that case, that sounds a little different because it's not so much our future technology is so advanced. It's this specific event is our past, so we know the details of what's coming in the next 3 days. It's less of,
and we're historians of this time period of this event.
It's less about my knowledge of how to
use a
text
microwave.
and use a microwave is managing to win over all these primitives.
Yeah.
So real quick, for those who are not aware. Two important kind of scholarly terms to know are imperialism and colonialism. Imperialism, and because they're related. Imperialism is when a nation goes out and conquers another, and usually a series of them to form an empire for gain, for territory, resources, people, exploitation. We're taking your shit because we beat you up. And it's usually allowed because of technological differences. So
we're going to take your stuff because you can't stop us.
Yeah.
And because you can't stop us, we're also going to dictate the terms of the stuff cooking.
Yeah, but so imperialism is bad, but it often.
Man just had to take a centering breath just now.
There's too much going on in our current life
Yep.
and news and stuff about the people taking stuff because they're stronger.
Yeah.
Definitely not what's going on the other side of the world, and America's backing it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to this.
The past is prologue.
Sorry, I had to
No worries, guys. I'm right there with you.
I had a moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Had a moment to regret reality, and we're back.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So that's imperialism. It's basically empire. Go and conquer. Interestingly, well, anyway, I won't make that note because that's a whole can of worms that I don't want to. But I'll tell y'all after the show. But colonialism is a function of imperialism. It doesn't always happen, but it often does. Colonialism is when you engage in the systematic exploitation of a conquered region. You place people there, your own people, as a colony, and you set up systems to exploit things. So think of the colonies in the Americas. They came to get gold. They came to get natural resources. Nowadays, we do it for oil. But you go to a place and you take the resources, you strip mine it as much as you can. And you do the same to the people. You enslave them, or you turn them into subjects to where they work for you. The economic output of the colony goes back to the homeland empire, or the home empire.
Yeah. It's not reinvested into that same community. It's removed to be used elsewhere.
Now, sometimes, because colonialism is often expensive to the empire, they do put in investments. They build roads, they build schools, they build factories, but it is solely to make the exploitation more efficient. So the roads are there to make it easy to move products to market and get the money back.
Which is why most of the East Coast is built around its ports.
Yeah. Likewise, the schools are there either for the kids of your colonists, or they're there to explicitly indoctrinate the local kids. Not to give them any opportunities. They only get a little education, enough to be good little subjects or slaves, and then you do other things. This colonialism comes in flavors. One big example is settler colonialism, which is what we did in the Americas, where you go in and you basically do an ethnic genocide and a cultural genocide against all the local people for daring to live in your land that they used to own before you stole it.
Well, okay.
And this is where you get the Indian schools, where kids were forced to go, taken from their homes and families, put in a Western school, beaten if they spoke their native language, their hair was shaved, they were forbidden under pain of beating from doing anything native, it's breaking the connection of families so that they no longer have their culture. Kill the Indian to save the man.
So while nothing you said was incorrect,
Yes. Go for it.
and it is terrible, there's this. I just want to say that there is, from the point of view of the conqueror, what they're thinking is not, I want to be as much of a dick as possible. Sometimes that may have been part of it, but it's if you have your own culture and your own cultural memory and your own cultural understanding of this place and it's, what it should be and whatever, odds are you're going to take issue with the crazy amount of exploitation I'm about to do to your environment and whatever, and eventually you're going to fight me.
Yeah.
So I and your children are going to fight me. And then you get the whole guerrilla war thing going on over long periods of time, and that's brought down empires, and so there is a certain level of as the conqueror's perspective is they're trying to defang the population because the population has every legitimate reason to want to use those fangs on their oppressors.
Yeah.
So it's a tactical move. It's not just
sound.
we're gonna be an asshole. It's just tactics that are also inhumane.
I mean, the reason that Britain and America and most of Europe and Japan did and do so well is because it works.
Yeah, it's
It's
an
just
effective
evil.
strategy. It's just terrible. Yeah.
And again, economic exploitation is a big part. Cultural genocide of, as you said, if they have a culture, they're going to object to things. So we destroy their culture and make them like us. We force assimilation. That's what settler colonialism is. And I saw an interesting article that if, for instance, you watch Goblin Slayer, the Goblin Slayer, the hero, he's a hero because he's going around killing all the goblins that are too small a problem for the Isekai heroes. Mm-hmm. But all this frontiers people, they love the Goblin Slayer because he protects them. He gets rid of those evil goblins that are trying to drive them off from this land that they are colonizing that used to belong to the fucking goblins. So he is enacting genocide and settler genocide the same way that the Americas exterminated Native Americans. And it's very clear about it. So that's this whole isekai thing of, the technology from the old world and the old world is exploited and dried out and doesn't have anything anymore. Think of the third sons of noble families. They weren't going to inherit land. They couldn't go to the church. They had no options. There was no new territory. They couldn't fight for anything. So where do they go? The New World, to colonize it, to steal its riches. That's the same with the isekai loser. He's nothing in the regular world, but in the New World, his useless regular old skills and technology are suddenly dramatically more powerful. It's like a bunch of Europeans coming over with guns and fighting natives with, obsidian spears and bows and arrows. Not that there's anything wrong with obsidian spears and bows and arrows, just not great when it comes compared to guns.
Well, and they're just not great against steel armor.
Yeah, not great against steel armor. So it's not that the colonists, of course, are saying, this is because we're superior, this is because God loves us better, because we're Christian and white. Not always white, but mostly white. And no, it's just you got better toys. You're not even good at this. Like, you're actually bad at management. Columbus, when he colonized the islands, exterminated the native population, and a lot of them by mass suicide, because he was just so tyrannical and bad at governance that the entire population got wiped out, which, not to be evil and cynical about it, but if you are colonizing, you want a local population to work for you.
Yeah.
Like, the colonizers were shit at their jobs. So that is what colonialism is. So my premise, as you can see, I think you're starting to see the parallels between isekai and colonialism, right? What really gets to the one I wrote about specifically is the anime Overlord, which I love. Great anime, great manga. I did the light novel series, and I listened to them all on Audible. Great reads, highly recommend. But it is very clearly about colonialism, and specifically Japanese colonialism, because Japan was a little different. It borrowed from, in the 1800s, Japan was isolationist, the Tokugawa shogunate, no outsiders, no Westerners, no Christians, the step on the Virgin Mary or get killed type thing. Commodore Perry comes in, forces Japan to open because I got a big metal warship and you got wooden boats, so fuck all y'all. The American way.
This warship has 135 cannons on it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, each side of it.
Yeah. You guys have spears. I don't think this is going to go your way. So, again, the American way. And then Japan really quickly, to their credit, realizes, oh shit, we're about to be colonized. These whiteys do not see us as people. They're going to exploit us. We need to get on the colonizing side before we got issues. So they start going after Taiwan, and they start going after Korea. Eventually they will take parts of China, and this will culminate in World War II when they join the Axis powers and get defeated and their empire is crushed. So there's a lot of stuff in Japan that's a weird... They mark things in terms of Confucian virtue as opposed to like Christianity. And borrowing from earlier Chinese stuff, they had this idea of mature savages and primitive savages. And the mature ones are the ones who have heard about Confucius and know some things and have borrowed some stuff from Chinese tradition and have some trade with China. So they're a little like us. And then the primitives are, cannibals that only understand violence and are subhuman and do all sorts of horrible things because their skin is brown. I'm sorry, that was in America. So, it's the same race.
Skin is browner still.
Yeah.
Applied.
Japan is horribly, horribly racist. It's just then and now. Just slightly different system.
Yeah, no, like, I am Asian, and Asians are very racist.
Yeah, it is super racist.
There's definitely a hierarchical of Asians.
Yeah. What the fuck was I saying? Oh, right. Japanese colonialism. So it was based on a Confucian hierarchy. Same racist principles, just aligned slightly differently. And a lot of it was emphasizing, like, oh, these Koreans are unfit to rule themselves because look at all the problems they're having. So we have to be the big brother and rule for them, just like America did with the Philippines. They explicitly said that. Because they're trying to get out of this weird semi-colonized state. And they said, no, we are the big dogs. We may not have the same skin, but we are clearly the superior group, especially in this region. We're colonizing everybody just like you do. And, being Japanese, they also think that the Westerners are all white barbarians who are forcing this weird system of colonialism on them when actually we're the superior colonizers. So it's this weird interplay of race and hierarchy and colonizing, which you see in Overlord. Because in the game, it starts, for those who don't know, it's kind of like Sword Art Online. It starts as a deep dive video game where like you put on the headset and your mind goes into the game and you run around in an avatar body and play a video game. Except the main character, Momonga, or Ainz, plays an undead skeleton necromancer.
I forgot his name was Momonga.
Yeah. And everybody...
I thought it was just Ainz.
Yeah, everybody in his guild plays what's called a grotesque. So, there's humanoids like humans, dwarves, elves, etc. There's subhumans like ogres, orcs, goblins. And there's grotesques like slimes, undead, insectoids, etc.
So if you're used to the D&D terminology, they're aberrations.
Yeah.
Wait, so that was a real thing? I don't remember that in Overlord.
Yeah, well, it's explained more in detail in the light novel.
Oh, okay.
And the light novels are better. They have more detail, and one or two of the characters... It's mostly the same. One or two of the characters are explained better and make more sense and are better done. But by and large, it's the same plot. The anime is pretty good. But yeah, so that's what it was, and their guild was just grotesques. That was one of the rules. Also, the other rule was you had to have a real-world job. But they live in a world that is completely destroyed by pollution. Like, everybody lives in domed cities. One of the characters creates a night sky and a forest on one of their levels because he's obsessed with what the world used to look like and like when you could see the night sky. So it's a ruined world, and a world where
I need to learn the light novels because I'm like, what the shit are you talking about?
Yeah, again, that's not mentioned, but that is in there.
That's interesting.
The 6th level where they have the arena, that the reason it looks like the night sky is because the world is so polluted they can't see it anymore, and somebody was recreating it. But yeah, Momonga is a grotesque. He's like, in the game, people are picked on and abused just for playing non-humanoids because people are shit no matter where. And then he gets transported to this new world. All the evil, grotesque NPCs, even though they're hot women, they're all non-human. That's all their human forms. Like, one is just a slime and devours people with their boobs. It's a real messed up anime. But
Fantastic. It's fucking great.
It's fun.
It is great.
Yeah.
But all of these characters were non-human. They were just mannequins. They were NPCs. They couldn't think or operate independently, and only, like, you had to give specific commands to make them do anything.
And you could write personalities and backstories for them, but it was more flavor text than
it was just flavor text. It didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Suddenly, they're all alive. They're independent. Their backstories are real now, which is a problem because they're all fucking evil. And they were role-playing villains. They were just having fun, and suddenly he's surrounded by actual monsters. So I do feel for the guy. But these grotesques and monsters in a semi-human state, using Western gaming ideas like D&D, RPGs. The game is called Yggdrasil and is based on Norse mythology. So using Western ideas, co-opting it into a Japanese framework, these semi-humans become the true powerhouses. They move from the semi-colonized state to the colonizer state. right? And then they go about conquering the world.
Yeah.
And the whole world is made of humans, and they have like different empires and strategies, and things are going on, and politics. And Ainz just bulldozes through, doesn't give a fuck, does not know what he's doing. He is completely fucking incompetent.
Well, and part of the beginning of the whole thing is like he's sitting there, right? Because he's been isekai, so he shows up and he's like, "Oh God, what do I do? I'm in a different world." And he looks around and he basically at some point goes like, "Huh, they are expecting things of me to be kind of like this character that I was playing." And we would go about conquering things, so I guess we'll conquer things. Like he doesn't like even that he doesn't really quite know what he's doing.
And one of the fun parts is the whole world conquering starts with him like he's flying up with one of his demon minions because they insist he have an escort, and he's just looking at the world and he's like, oh my god, the stars are like jewels, because again, polluted world, he's never really seen the night sky, and the demon goes, oh, they're jewels to be laid at your feet, my master. And he's just going, might be fun to conquer the world. And it's just a half-hearted, like, might be fun. Nah, that's stupid. Nobody's serious. No actual adult would think that. Mm-hmm. That nobody could take me seriously. And he just assumes the guy behind him brushes it off, like, just, I'd like a pony. He's not actually meaning anything. 7 novels later, and the demon is standing in front of everybody. He's like, well, obviously we all know this is part of Lord Ainz's plan to conquer the world. Plan? What plan? The plan you talked about. What the fuck are you talking about? He screams inside his own head as he's standing there stone-faced like, yes, of course, my plan. Why don't you tell me what you think my plan is? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And even that is part of colonialism. Because if you look at the reaction to World War II and to the stuff leading up to it in Japan, basically the prevailing myth, which was put forth by the American military occupiers post-World War II, was that the Japanese people were not responsible for the things that happened, for the atrocities, the rape of Nanking, things like that, the comfort women. It was the military. The military were bad people, and they tricked and dragged the nice civilian populace into this evil war. Just like poor old Ainz is just a normal businessman who, in over his head, who's getting dragged along into these atrocities where he literally exterminates an entire country by accident. Of course, he exterminates an entire country and then thinks, boy, I'm tired. I'm going to invent paid vacations. So the entire thing is making fun of this completely incompetent dumbass who is a colonizer, destroying this world. And again, like, he captures the wise king of the forest, who turns out to be a giant hamster, because he just wants to show off how tough he is. And they tell him beforehand, like, the wise king's pretty cool. He keeps our village safe. We don't go into the forest too far because it's his territory, but everybody else knows it's his territory and they don't fuck with us. So we like him. It's safe here, and he's part of a tripartite, balance of power. Ainz captures him to show off how tough he is, and that leads to a vacuum of power and starts a war between the two other leaders, who then start, because of this, local populations of goblins have to run, and they start attacking the villages because they're being pushed out. Mm-hmm. So like all this shit, because Ainz is a dumbass who's way overpowered and doesn't give a shit about anything and just bulldozes his way through. Mm-hmm. So the entire thing is making fun of colonizers. It's very clearly anti-colonialist, so that's a good thing for Overlord. But it's the entire thing is a send-up of like, no, colonizers are dumbasses. This whole thing. The other thing to note is that, and again, you see this in Japan, and you see this in a lot of other places. Anybody listening to this probably knows somebody who will make this argument. They'll say, yeah, we did all that, but we brought them civilization. We did some good. We gave them roads and schools. And that happens, yeah. So there's a group called the Lizard Men. They show up in season 2, book 4. And basically, they get colonized. Like, Ainz comes in with an army, says, guess what, you bitches? I'm going to kill all of you or own all of you. You have 8 days to figure out what to do about that. Give me your best shot. I want to make an example. And in reaction, it ends up, a lot of them die, but they end up in a nicer place. they were worried about food shortages and starvation to the point that, like, a couple years before, they'd had a famine that led to a civil war. 2 of the 7 tribes were wiped out, and one of the tribes resorted to cannibalism. So they were in a bad situation, and because of Ainz's conquest, they end up in a better one. They don't have to worry about food. They are provided for. They have safety. They're not attacked by monsters. They just have to bow and scrape and live in terror every time any supervisor walks by. But it is an improvement. So, is colonialism justified? Is it okay in some situations? And I like Overlord because it says no.
Okay.
Because you see, like, at the start, and it said, I noticed that when the book did it, these lizard men have culture, even if it's primitive. Wow, fuck you, narrator. Even you get in on this. But it starts with one of their travelers coming back from, like, learning from other cultures, and it's like, hey guys, here's a fish farm, so we can actually grow our food and not have to worry about starving. And then they figure out, like, here's how we make a mud wall and then freeze it with ice magic. It's not a huge defense, but it keeps out rampaging monsters. Hey, look at that. We're developing safety. They even, because of the fight, like, they have this tradition of, only the elders and the leaders can talk, and a traveler is an outcast. And the leader's like, no, fuck you idiots. Listen to the traveler. He has ideas that might save our lives. Why don't we listen to him? And one of the characters is like, maybe our traditions aren't great. Maybe we should have a system where everybody contributes ideas, and then we, like, do a show of hands or something. And they're inventing democracy. They are solving their problems. They are developing as a culture. Ainz gives them a shortcut to some things, but mostly it's things they would have gotten on their own, and he fucks up a lot of people doing it, and he has no idea what he's doing. He starts and ends as a colossal joke. So I like Overlord in that, whereas on the other hand, you get things like that time I reincarnated as a slime, where it's just, isn't it great how he's showing them the right way to live? He's really improving these cultures and creating diversity after he murders their leaders. And yeah, the leaders maybe deserve murdering, but it's pretty, colonialism is great, which once I realized that, I was like, oh.
I know, I love Isekais, you son of a...
I know.
And now it's going to be the back of my head.
Even the harems are part of it, because it's all about how our women are pure and their women are disease sluts.
How dare you?
I know.
Don't explain that. I'm interested. So what about, like, I've been watching The Legend of the Shield Hero.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that one too.
And in that one, like, I mean, he's, like, his central characteristic is that he's grumpy. And the lessons and stuff that he brings are not like, I learned this from my world. He's just like, oh, I guess this is kind of video game-like, and plays it. But he's one of, like, 5 characters who do, and they are all, like, very exploitative and shitty with the NPCs and whatever. And I mean, spoilers, but, like, they betray him early on, and then he's like, oh, you guys are all dicks, fuck you. And he tries to leave, and then he can't. He's stuck there because of the Isekai spell.
Yeah.
And so he's like, fine, fuck you guys. I guess I'll fulfill the quest so I can go the fuck home, but fuck all y'all. And then he ends up being the one who's, like, actually taking, like...
Doing
things for the betterment, but it usually has to do with his in-game power and not... I'm just wondering if I can still like some of my isekais.
Yeah, and I don't know specifically, because, again, I haven't seen that one as much. But I think I should. I've heard good things.
It's pretty funny.
So it sounds like some of that is there in the attitude of, like, being a gamer gives him skill and translates to real world power. It might also be that, and there's this thing in Slime that, like, you meet other people who have been isekai'd and they're douches. And they're awful. So it could be an instance of, no, this is the good colonizer. Which, honestly, if such a thing existed, might actually be an improvement. Probably not. But,
well,
it would definitely be
there's
better than,
definitely a
what's there.
scale of colonizing.
Yeah, there is.
So there's a spectrum.
There is the... Yeah. We colonize you by... You should watch some of our movies. They're pretty good movies. We have very high production values, so
Well,
soft
even-
power influence.
Even in the military versions of it, like Rome, for instance, was so good at colonizing, partially because they're like, listen, don't make a problem, and you basically live as you have, you just pay us taxes. That's essentially the difference. And there were huge swathes of the Roman Empire that were like that.
Yeah.
Where they were like, keep your traditions, keep your whatever, like...
Although the Romans and the Greeks, part of the cultural colonialism aspect, were big on syncretism and on finding, like, how do your gods fit with our gods so we can become one culture together.
Is that what syncretism means?
To an extent, yeah. Syncretism, believing together, combining our beliefs.
Okay, cool. I've
Yeah.
never heard that word before.
Oh, okay.
In my
Yeah.
life.
It's when you combine beliefs or mixed
Gotcha.
beliefs together.
Yes, they were very big on that.
Yeah. So, and,
Yeah.
But
and some of that is for political stability.
Yeah, and that was them doing the same tactics. They're solving the same tactical problem of like, how do I keep these people from rebelling? But what the Romans figured out was like, actually, if the average person's life doesn't change that much when we take over, other than they're safer and their roads are good now and they have access to like the stuff that we bring, but there's soldiers there who can be dicks.
Yeah.
It's fine. But like in general, that leads to a pretty stable region that then we don't have to keep reconquering them, and we don't have to go through all the effort of subjugating them.
Yeah. So yeah, there are. I will. Yeah, that is.
Not to say
accurate.
that it's not.
No,
it's
it's
still
still-
colonialism and imperialism, because it is, and it's still a problem. So I'm not saying it's good, but it's like that end of it is better than what Japan did to China.
Yeah, there are no good colonialists, but there are less.
There are less bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also to go back, sort of synchronism and combining worlds, I would say that the genre we were talking about with the Isekai, I would say Shield Hero falls into a different genre that's the anti-Isekai, where the characters they're Isekai into a world, but they're like rejected by some form, and that's so they're like anti-Isekai.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'd forgotten about it. When I had this idea, I wrote the paper about Overlord, but when I was thinking about it and Isekai, I thought of I Hate Fairyland, which I've given both of you.
Yeah.
A quick summary. It's great. It's a little girl of like 8 years old is transported to fairyland and sent on a magical quest. And by transported, I mean a hole opens up in her floor and she plummets several hundred feet, breaks everything, and then is magically healed. Still suffers all the damage, but gets healed. And then she's sent with her little fly guide, kind of Jiminy Cricket-esque, to solve an adventure. 37 years later, she is a middle-aged, bitter, violent, psychotic killer woman in the body of an 8-year-old. Traipsing around this horrible place, because she can't curse, she calls everybody muffin fluffers and various other things, translations of curse words. But I thought of that one, and I think that's a good example of anti-isekai, because her premise is, I hate everyone here because I didn't get a choice.
Yeah.
You kidnapped me and brought me here to do your fun little adventure, and now I'm stuck here because fuck you.
Yeah.
So
it's
definitely
about-
Shield Hero. Yeah.
It's about slavery.
Oh,
She is a slave and is made to go on this adventure. So I would say that's where the anti-isekai fall. And so
So
much
anti-isekai.
easier to enjoy because it's clearly slavery bad.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So, because like a
in
lot
Shield
of.
Hero, he has slaves.
Well, does he have slaves? He has friends,
That's
right?
how Raftalia. That's how they become homie. He buys her,
I guess that's true. Yeah.
and then he does treat her like a human being.
yeah.
and,
I
like,
forgot about that because they're like.
Does he free her?
She gets at
Yeah.
some point she gets magically freed, and then she voluntarily takes the seal back, and it's like.
I just love my master so much, I'll be
I don't know,
enslaved to
you guys.
you. Yeah, this is
I
the
forgot
one
about
good
that, yeah.
colonist.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's what that is.
shit. That's some
But
Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
And he does.
I'm sorry, and I
eventually-
regret nothing.
Well, and no, because and here's what I will give to Shield Hero is that then the lesson is that he learns is that he then like helps her lead a rebellion to free her people from oppression, and like he does
That's
like
better.
get involved in a positive way later, but definitely in the beginning.
yeah, I totally forgot about that.
But
yeah.
even then, it's the basic premise is my culture's values are superior to your culture's values. Slavery is wrong, therefore I'm going to, beat up your entire society and lead a rebellion. Which, to be fair, slavery is wrong, and that's the right choice. But it's still that basic attitude.
Although
Yeah,
Well,
again,
you'll have to watch it. You'll have to
I
watch
do-
it
I
so
do
that
have
we
to
can
watch
have
it.
a more
But
proper conversation.
I think
about it.
so. I think
She-
the larger premise
it's
holds
more
true,
that
but
his
that might
thing
be a
is-
specific example.
She asked me to do it, so I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
And there's a level of like, he falls for her too throughout the show, and I don't think I've ever gotten to an arc where they get romantic, but like.
No, they don't. It's very like.
Yeah, it's like we have a crush on each other eternally. But there definitely comes a point in the story where if she gets in trouble or whatever, that he's like, that's one of the things that will God mode him.
Yeah.
Is when she gets in trouble. He's like, no.
Yeah.
So anyway, that might be more of a.
And that might be maybe they
more
do.
of a kink thing.
I might not be caught up. Maybe.
That might be a whole like.
But I mean, that's the Shield Hero and like the one that you brought up
fantasy.
are like both anti-isekai.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's about slavery, which is kind of like what the shadow to colonialism and stuff with slavery and stuff forced upon people. So I guess it's related, but like it's the anti is I guess better saying not slavery. God, there's another one I was thinking of, an anti-isekai that I really enjoyed. I can't remember now.
Yeah, and
I mean,
again, this doesn't
solo leveling like in that.
Yeah, or the
vein.
overly cautious hero.
I wouldn't call solo like the overly cautious hero. Yes,
and that one I was thinking of that is not overly colonialist, but even then, it's that attitude of we must do things my way because my attitude is superior. So I would say that.
Okay, but that one's a real
goes back
isekai
and
though.
forth, and it's more or less present, but I think the overall trend.
Dude, the
is
super
definitely
practical hero is like the ultimate example of this, because when he comes into the world, it's not that he gets magic powers. Like, he doesn't get super powered because of it. It's just that he's like a social engineer and just starts logisticking all of their societies into being successful. But it's the conceptual colonialism of like, I know how to do city planning and you guys don't, and so I'm gonna change your whole fucking world. And like he does. And like his superpower is that he like builds roads and like has a standing army, and like he does the things that is the way that Western colonialism builds a nation, and he builds up everywhere he goes.
Yep.
And everyone loves him for it.
And everyone loves him, and he's good and benevolent because our empires were totally just to do this.
And all the various local hotties that are in every various race, and those are their ambassadors, is always the hotties.
Yep.
They all want to do him because of how awesome he is.
Because clearly, it's not okay for their men to do our women, but it's totally okay for a white man to do their women. In fact, many white men seem to have a fetish for that sort of thing, and it didn't lead to oodles of rape. So deeply fucked up, isn't it? Well, I've ruined your days.
Okay.
And all you listeners too. Enjoy it after that. I dare you.
I will.
Yeah, I still will.
It's like I've seen how butter's made, and I still use butter.
That's fair.
I like to say that I do fair trade chocolate, but I do eat less chocolate now, though.
Yeah.
But that might be an older person thing and not, not like a moral choice.
That might be because now it keeps me up at night.
I just
It's
don't crave it
because
as
social
much.
Justice, but,
Well, anything else? We are about 15 minutes, so anything else to add before we close out?
Overly cautious hero is not an anti-isekai; it's an isekai. He's just overly cautious, but the gods in the world have accepted him and
so
stuff.
fast.
Oh, sorry, no, I was just rapid firing to save time. That was not supposed to be aggressive. The one I was thinking about was he gets isekai'd, but the goddess is like, "You're ugly," and just throws him in the world and gives him nothing. And he becomes a problem for her because he's like, "Ah!"
That also sounds entertaining.
that's an amazing premise.
Yeah,
It's really
and
funny.
Again, I would say that because anime in general is so diverse, and even the isekai subgenre is wildly diverse, this isn't applicable to I think the overall theme is there, but it's more or less in any given one, and some of them, like you said, are anti-isekais, some of them are playing with this idea, but they're all kind of centered around that core idea. So he's like the traveler who's like, I'm going to go to the new world and make a name for myself. What do you mean everybody's made a name for themselves? What? Why does everything cost money? Where's the adventure? Guys, I'm poor here too.
I'm poor you too.
Okay, so the anime I'm talking about is called The Isekai Goddess Called Me Ugly.
Oh, I will say, I gotta love Japanese naming conventions. It is very straightforward.
Well, for real, I've really enjoyed that
it's-
string of titles that just tell you exactly what the fucking game is about.
I laugh at them. I find it's like, oh, that's so dumb. But I also really like it because it tells you right what's on the tin.
Yep.
That time I reincarnated as a slime. Wonder what it's about.
Probably some kid reincarnated as a slime.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think hopefully I have ruined Isekai for you. Enjoy that. Anything else?
Yeah, but I'm still
refuse.
watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely into the
Well,
anime.
hopefully I've made it. You can still watch it, but you're gonna feel a little bad every time you do. So.
That's fine. Yeah.
I'll just
It's not
be
gonna chocolate.
on to them. I'll be like,
yeah.
I'm not buying your shit. I just want to see how this ends.
That's fair too.
Popcorn.
I have moved on to the majority of the OP main character. The main character, like kind of like One Punch,
Yeah.
which I think is really funny, like Sakamoto days, stuff like that. Where the main character is just OP, and then it's more, the conversations are more funny and it's more philosophical than it is like, oh, this is the underdog winning.
Yeah.
At least to me, that's why I think it's really funny.
All right. Well, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, Sakamoto Day is freaking great.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it.
So yeah. Bye.
Cold closer complete.